Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you think I've never done this before. We just have some updates to start with, some updates and reminders. I'll be doing that along with Jamie Camacho, and then some new IEP updates. And what's really important about today, maybe one of the most important things, is that there's some changes coming to a lot of DESE systems and processes and the work that we do through sort of the guidance that we received from the federal government related to general supervision. So we want to spend some time talking to you about that today, letting you know what we're doing this year. Many of the types of things we have to change for this year will go into effect next year. So this is beginning to kind of socialize you to what's coming. And there are just some changes to how we will do our work going forward. I'll explain more in just a minute. We really work to ground ourselves in our educational vision, really thinking on who we are here to serve, how we are going about that service, and what's it all, frankly, in service of, that children are known and valued, that learning experiences are real world relevant and interactive, and that, you know, a special ed is seen in all of these bullets, but particularly this one about through individualized support, students are able to excel at grade level and beyond. So we're working to really just make sure we keep coming back to our educational vision, that this is the type of experience we want our students to have. And so I hope that what you hear from DESE is just a lot of alignment towards this. If you pick up a grant from us, if you see contracting for partners, this is the type of work that we're asking you to do through grants, through partners, to do through contracts, so that we can just drive towards this vision as best as we possibly can. And thanks for your interest in that. Let's jump to some special education updates. I'm really pleased to begin with updates with some voices from our colleagues in special education and institutional services. So our colleagues from the Collaborative for Educational Services, if you wouldn't mind coming on screen, we're really pleased to have you here today. Teresa, Antonio, and Kate. We just want to really start this year, as we begin the year, really thinking about, for, you know, you don't know when or how students might be interfacing with special education in institutional settings at various moments during the school year. And so we just want to start this year by thinking about and sharing some information with you about what to expect when students are admitted into an institutional setting. That could be a DYS facility, a DMH facility, a DPH facility, Pappas Rehabilitation Hospital for Children. And those are the types of settings where we have young people being supported and educated all across the state, getting, in some cases, clinical needs met, as well as through us, educational needs met. So Kate, I think I'm turning it over to you, but maybe Teresa, to get us started, just know a little bit more about SEIS as we start this new school year. And I'm glad for you to take us inside this information.
Great, thank you so much, Russell. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with everyone today. So you did a great introduction talking about special education in institutional settings and who we service, right? So you talked about the host agencies that we service, the Department of Youth Services, the Department of Mental Health, DPH, which is the Pappas Rehabilitation Hospital for Children, and our county houses of correction. We all know that when students get placed in these settings, it's not an educational decision, right? Students are placed here through the action of a state agency or through court action. But even with that being said, even though the district is not making the decision for a student to come to one of our programs, the district remains ultimately responsible for that child. But we certainly want to be a great partner with our districts with how do we support these students when they are placed in one of these settings. It's important to remember too that our services may look a little different depending on which host agency a child ends up in. If it's in DYS or County House of Correction or DMH adult up until the age of 22, we only provide special education services. An IEP is the ticket in the door for services for us. On the flip side, if a student is placed in DPH, Pappas, or in the Department of Mental Health in an adolescent program, we are the only show in town, so we will be providing both special education and the general education as well. Once again, like we talked about you, our district partners, ultimately remain responsible for our districts, but we have the privilege and pleasure to be working with these students when they are placed in one of these settings. So in order for us to make sure that the needs of students, and we know that students have very unique needs from one's time with us, no matter how long or how short, is as impactful as possible. Now, talk is cheap. We can say we want to be a great partner, but let's really talk about some ways in which SEIs is really committed to partnering with our district stakeholders. So one of the ways that we do it is simply we share records back and forth, right? We get records so we can make sure that we have the most up-to-date information to be able to service students correctly. We assist with districts remain ultimately responsible for scheduling meetings and the whole team process, but we want to make sure that we help facilitate. We get people involved and connected with the programs. We find out dates that work for our staff. We also try to help the process by providing draft IEP planning notes to the district. Please note that I say draft because once again, the ultimate responsibility goes back to the district to create the IEP. However, we know so many of our students have interrupted school histories, and perhaps they have not been with you for a little bit, and we may have the most up-to-date, meaningful data to help inform the discussion that happens at a team meeting. We also, depending on the host agency and the student's needs, we share academic reports back with our district partners, so to help with credit retrieval. And we also provide progress reports for students on a quarterly basis. We also will work with districts around to call non-SEIs services. And I'm sure some people on this call are like, oh yes, I received quite a few memos from SEIs, the dreaded NSS, saying, how are we going to work together to make sure if it's something SEIs can't provide, how do we make sure students still get it, because we know that they are entitled to those services. So we like to work with our districts around that by doing a couple things, talking about that and seeing how can we help the district maybe facilitate talking to the program to find out, can they provide this service, come into the program and do speech and language, or maybe do that remotely. Or another non-SEI service may be counseling that's in the IEP, OT-PT, maybe it's a rule-based reading program. We are committed to working with districts to close the loop on how these services can be provided to students, even if it's that we provide a resource list that we have, because sometimes we know it's difficult to find a provider because you may be in Northampton and a student may be placed down the Cape, right? So we know that sometimes there are challenges. So those are a few ways in which we look to partner with districts. But perhaps what we are most excited about is our IEP Reconvene initiative. So as people may know, we're actually surprisingly going into like our third year. Our friends at DESE actually created an advisory called Shared Responsibility for Students Placed in Institutional Settings. And of all the great information in there, one of the best practices which it talks about is the IEP Reconvene. It really encourages districts and SEIs to reconvene a team meeting for a student early on in the student's stay. So we like to think about it as all about transition, right? So twofold, right? How do we help students transition into one of our programs by having the team come together early on to come up with a roadmap, right? Let's look at that IEP, let's dissect it, let's see what's in there, let's see what can SEIs provide and what maybe does the district need to provide still. Is there anything in there that we need to look to amend or modify, because we know that most likely that IEP was written, excuse me, sorry, in a setting that was not SEIs, right? So what do we need to do? Also like to say is, how powerful can it be for that student and that parent or legally authorized representative to see SEIs and the district and the host agency all working together to come up with a plan to make sure that student is not forgotten, that their needs are still being met. I mean, you guys know better than anyone that a lot of our students have interrupted school histories, and maybe they haven't been actually in your school for a little bit. So a great time to bring people together, to reconnect, so everyone has a game plan, so there's no surprises for students. I mean, how powerful can that be for a parent and a student to see? On the flip side, as we talk about transition, the IEP reconvene really supports transition for students when they're leaving. That whole exit upon entry mantra that we like to say. We know that students are only with us for a little bit of time on their educational journey, and they'll be going someplace else. So why don't we connect people early on so they can get connected to hear about progress, they can get connected to hear about what the next steps are for that student, so we can ensure as seamless as possible of a transition when the student leaves us and goes back to you. So the other thing that we want to say is we totally get that this work is complicated. We know that there are some scenarios that just when you think you've seen every scenario, there's bound to be another one that pops up. So if you have any questions about a student who lands in DYS, County Office of Correction, DPH, DMH, if you get a memo, you don't understand what it means, or you just want to talk about a particular situation with the student, please reach out to us. We certainly know that this work is complicated. We know that the way we're going to be able to really support and promote positive student outcomes is if we are working together towards the same goal. And we truly do realize that we're all in this together. So if people can certainly reach out to me, my team is the school district liaison team. They are the ones who are probably interfacing the most with your out-of-district coordinators. They're a great group of people. We really pride ourselves on customer service. So please feel free to reach out to them. But I am always available. And certainly Teresa and Tony, especially for the more complicated cases, they are definitely available to kind of talk it through and see what happens. Once again, I was a little remiss because I also want to make sure I talk about, we don't want to forget about our gen ed students. So our general ed students, we have like a sister process called the SEIM meeting, which is the SEIs initial education meeting, where we do the same thing. We bring people together, guidance, SEIs, the host agency, to figure out what plan makes sense for that particular student while they're with us. Once again, we're really focused on making our time with students, no matter how long or how short, as impactful as possible. And how it relates to this group is our SEIM meeting often is the jumping point to talk about, does a particular student maybe need to be referred for an initial evaluation? So I am sure I'm up against the clock. So I just want to say, we are in it together. Please, let's continue the conversations. We feel like we have some great relationships with our district partners, and we could not do this work in isolation. So thank you so much, and really look forward to continued conversation.
Definitely. Okay, thank you very much. That was such important and useful and timely information as we begin the new school year. I just want to underscore what you were saying about the IEP reconvene. Really encouraging when districts receive that outreach from SEIS, from our CES partners who run all of the educational programming within the institutional settings, that we really appreciate your presence, your participation, because like Kate said, that idea of planning for exit upon entry is so important, making sure we're putting together the right combination of services based on students' IEPs for their time in the institutional settings is so important. We feel like it's a game changer, and we hope that you just join us in the support that the reconvene meetings help to provide. So thank you very, very much. Appreciate all of you being here, and look forward to doing some program visits with you this year. Have a great rest of the day. As always, if you have questions along the way, don't hesitate to put your questions into the Q&A for today's presentation. And let's now turn to Jamie Camacho to provide some reminders about upcoming requirements, upcoming responsibilities for our districts.
Thanks, Russell. Some quick reminders. So just if you have not subscribed to our special ed bulletin, just wanted to provide you with the link to make sure that you have that. We send out usually monthly, sometimes a little bit more than monthly, but it's a lot of more important information that goes out. And that list goes out to anybody that subscribes. So it doesn't have to be just special ed directors. It can be anybody on your staff that you feel it would be helpful to have that information. Just want to mention on the website, we're going to be using the announcements section. So when things are updated or new, you'll know. You don't have to look for things on the website. It'll be put in that announcement section. So if there's a new forum, a new memo, you'll see it there, and you won't have to kind of look around and see what's new. I've been getting this question a lot, so I just want to remind you. So as far as the listservs that we have, and this is how we send out the invites for the special ed leaders meetings, any memos that come out, we actually can't change that information. You need to look to see who the administrator is for your district. You can look on profiles to see who's listed for special education. Make sure the email address is correct. And that's how that information goes out. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to us as well. Just a couple of time sensitive things. So you all know that if you have not already submitted and had your applications for your 240 and 262 approved, you need to make sure that you have your budgets ready to go for your applications for the resolution funds and equitable services, M cubed if you're an NI district from last year, CCIS and CEIS. Equitable services, just another reminder here, make sure that you have your schedule for your consultation meetings, at least 3 this year. Again, and getting services up and running if you haven't done that already. And then just a reminder, as far as the resolution funds, we'll be asking you around December or January for an update on your expenditures. So you're going to want to get moving on spending those funds as well. Data collection, just a reminder for indicator 7, which I have another slide that talks about timelines, and today is the day that data submission is ending. But planning ahead for your entry and your exit data for students. The system opens in November, April, and August. So you need to make sure that you have a system in place for students that are new or students that are exiting. I think it was earlier this week, we sent out a memo, or maybe the end of last week, for the FY 2024. It came from Public School Morning in my office, just for the data collection for the indicators. The link is there if you have not seen it, but that will have information for any of the data collection for this year. And then my last reminder, we talked about this last year, I think we sent it out in one of our bulletins, but just a reminder for planning for IEP meetings this year, when you're looking at ESY, making sure that you're having conversations about transportation and considering any transportation needs that might need to be considered, or what you might need to talk about later if you determine, where ESY is going to be located, students that you might need to revisit back as far as transportation needs. So just a couple of reminders. And Russell, the next one is just some dates. Again, indicator 7 closes today, indicator 14 on the 29th. Another reminder that your FY22 funds are expiring very soon. The application for child count for parentally placed and homeschool students, the one that you used in June to submit to us your count for the application for IDEA. We'll actually be opening that up on October 1st. It'll be open for about a month. You'll need to do your count as of October 1st. I just want to give you kind of a heads up. You'll be getting a memo with some more information on that, but the application is going to be coming out soon, and you'll be doing that ahead of time, not like you did this year where you did it in June. Last couple of reminders, just IDEA applications. There's a lot of 240 and 262 applications that we have not received and have not been approved. So that deadline is coming up as well. And then just another reminder, just mentioned at the indicator 7, it will open up again in November. I think that's it, Russell.
Yeah, no, Jamie, I really appreciate this. I know that, our goal in presenting this today is just to make sure that we're bringing you information where we know that sometimes districts have gotten stuck. And so let's just remind you as we start the new school year about critical things. Just want to underscore what Jamie said about things like, planning now how you're going to set up your consultation meetings for equitable services during the meeting. If that's not already set, just getting those dates set. So we hope that, after this presentation today, maybe just taking the slides, working with your teams, figuring out, do you have these things in place? If not, what can your planning be to get them in place? And putting, hopefully for us to put them all on one slide, some of the key things that are coming up is just our effort to, just make it a little easier for you, to make you not have to guess so much about what is it that I need to do at this time of year. And Jamie, I think this is something your team is really working to do across the board, is just to consolidate information, put it in one place, include the links so that people can get what they need in a timely and relevant way.
Absolutely. And they're always welcome to reach out if you have specific questions, but we're just trying to make this a nice list for you with the resources as well.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jamie. Really appreciate that. The quick update on some of the training sessions that are coming up, webinars around the MCAS alt training that happens every fall. I know that, when I was a special ed director, I went to them religiously, always got so much good information, not just about the alt, but anything else MCAS related for students with disabilities. And so just want to mention that there are these times coming up for the overview, the fall administrators overview. You see there September 26th, October 12th. In the PowerPoint, there are the ways in which you can find the link to the sign up. I tested it myself, wanted to make sure it would be pretty clear for me. I went to the MCAS alt website this morning and just, gave it a shot just to see what I understand how to sign up, and I found it to be really clear. So if you're not signed up, please consider it, because again, you're just finding out information that's really timely and relevant for this upcoming school year. A good place to get questions answered, and really appreciate our team here at DESE who works to bring you that information. In addition, there are also trainings about the MCAS competency and grade level portfolio sessions. So we know that a lot of students with more complex disabilities who have grade level skills are challenged sometimes to demonstrate their knowledge on the standard MCAS test. So learning more about what that competency review process is, or the grade level portfolios, is also something that might be timely and relevant. And so just encouraging you to think about who might need to attend a session like that, given some of the volume you might have this year in the way of those portfolios. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put them in the Q&A, and we'll make sure we save some time at the end to delve into those questions. The last thing that we want to give as an update, as a reminder, is what we have named the Coordinated Pandemic-Related Transition Services. We've mentioned this in the past, that the state legislature set aside $10 million for young people who reach the age of 22 and receive special education services from March of 2020 up until this past September 1st. So it's a pretty broad range of students who can continue to get services from other adult agencies, as they are now beyond school age. Why am I bringing this up to you? Well, we know that there are about 2,000, just over 2,000 young people who are eligible for these services. And frankly, we really want more to get them. So while you are not being asked to provide the services, the outreach that we need to help to find these young people and let them know that services are available, they can get sort of enhanced adult services that are very relevant for community functioning skills, for socialization skills, for vocational skills. They are available, and we've set up an infrastructure to be able to provide these services, and we just want more young people to access them. So where you come in is, we do ask, maybe if you're new, if you haven't heard this in the past, or if it's something you did in the past, we'd ask you to maybe consider doing it again. It is going into the security portal, downloading, we're telling you who these individuals are. So we took the 2,000 students and we put their names in the security portal, so you know exactly who we're talking about, but we don't have addresses. And so we need you to go into the security portal, perhaps pull out those names, and just think, it's probably a pretty small number of young people in your community. Do you still have a connection to that family? Do you know somebody who has a connection to that family? Is there some way to get them the flyer that you see linked here, just to help them access these supports? Because we really want to get more young people engaged with what we have available. And so maybe there are places within your community where the flyer could also be posted. Don't hesitate just to get the flyer out there, because word of mouth might help to connect more young people to these services. So either through maybe a direct mailing, again, it would be a small number of people that we have listed in the security portal for you, or at the local level, just sending out the flyer so that people can see it. This really matters a lot to us, that young people are able to get these services to really help them with that further transition into adulthood. And so if there are families who are interested, they can just use that link. The Federation is our partner in this work. They have, as part of their hotline, if parents call and say that we want to kind of have like a one-stop location. So parents just call the Federation at that number that's listed there to get the services started, to get connected to the other state agencies. We've just tried to make this as streamlined as possible. And so even just passing along that phone number is a great way to help families get connected to this. So we hope you may be sharing some of this enthusiasm for what's available for young people. This is maybe just all of us collectively doing our part to do what we can for a group of people who were particularly impacted by the pandemic, and we want to make sure that we continue to support them into their future. The final update that I have for you is just a reminder of our meetings. So our October meeting, we are not going to do a meeting next month. We have our training of trainer sessions for the new IEP in October. So we think that's going to take up either your time or somebody else's time on your team. And so we've dropped the October meeting. We'll be back with you in November, and we look forward to the rest of the meetings that we have this year. So please make sure they're on your calendar. We are hoping that in April, we might be able to get around the state and do some live in-person sessions. So we're holding out some hope, but we'll let you know more on that soon. All right, let's go to the new IEP. Some updates for you, and one that is very, very time sensitive. I just mentioned the training of trainer sessions. You see the dates listed there: October 16th, October 17th, October 18th. The deadline for registering is today, and we have to take this deadline very seriously because we have larger districts that really need to send more people. And we've held off on releasing some of the seats that are available for all schools and districts until we see what the final numbers are. But once we close today, we need to give those additional available seats to our larger urban partners. And so please take this seriously. If you're not registered yet, please do so. One thing to mention, because the registration has been open for a little while, we have had a lot of demand in the Waltham location on October 17th. So right now, October 17th in Waltham is actually closed. So if you go to register for that, just know that that location is not available right now, but the 16th at Devon's, the 18th at Mass Mutual in Springfield, we still have availability, plenty of availability in Springfield. That's a very large conference room that we're in. So please get the registration done today, and then we will get more information out to you soon. In addition, we have our virtual office hours the second Thursday of each month. We had our office hours yesterday. About 50 people attended. So please, if you're interested, click the link, register. One of the things that we're changing is to make it so that you can register for all of the office hours all at once based on your feedback, instead of having to register session by session. So please consider doing that to continue to get good information about the new IEP. In addition, there are important resources that we're working to make sure are available by the training of trainer sessions. And our technical guide is one of them. So previously we had named the technical guide the process guide, but we put out our initial release on August 3rd with a follow-up with a complimentary survey so that you could tell us your feedback on that initial version, that first draft we had. And what we got back made us think we need to rethink this guide a bit. And that's what we want from the interaction that we have with you through our stakeholder engagement process, through this survey. And so it made us think we need to just more narrowly call this a technical guide. Basically, what are the directions for completing the IEP? And to work to, in a sense, trim it down. So if you take a look at what we released on August 3rd, today we are releasing, it's not up quite yet, but it will be today. We are releasing draft number 2. And what you're going to see is we've sort of taken out some of the kind of background information and try to more narrowly focus it on how, what are the technical steps for writing the IEP. We're excited about this document, what it can do for teams, just to understand, all the different parts of the IEP. So this new version that we're releasing today includes all of the sections of the IEP. Our first release only had some of the parts of the IEP to give you a sense of where we were going with it. That survey closed September 1st. We took a look at the results. We worked diligently to create this new version that's posted today. So I'm excited that it's out there. We've included the link to the new survey. So if you care to go back and look again and give us some more feedback, please do so. That survey will close on September 26th so that we can get our final full version posted in October, in time for that training of trainer session, because this will be an important resource to have during the training of trainer sessions. In addition to the technical guide, we have other resources that we're continuing to work on. You can see them listed here. I won't read them to you, but what I want to point out is the playbook. And particularly because the next time I see you will be at the training of trainer sessions. I'll be at the first 2. I just can't make it to Springfield, unfortunately. But between Jamie, April, other members of our team, Jeanette Alidi, You're gonna see lots of, of our DESE faces at those meetings, encouraging and welcoming you, and just so excited to get going with the new IEP. But the real focus, just so you know in advance, is going to be how you can use available tools like the sample IEPs, the technical guide, and what you see also listed here is the playbook. And so the way that we're thinking about it is the technical guide, as the name implies, is really about the technical change that comes with the new IEP. The playbook focuses more on the adaptive change. How do we create systems and processes that will be more inclusive, more engaging for families, more data-driven in our processes? And we're really excited to bring you both on the training of trainers session so that you can learn how to use those tools and then turnkey them back to your teams in your schools and districts. So just a heads up that what's coming in particular right now are things like the sample IEPs, the technical guide, the playbook, and we hope to have the sample family letter for you available at about the same time. But those are resources that you really need to get to use to start the training process. A final question that you might have is about the grant that we have to support this. We are also working really diligently to get this ready. In fact, it's just a process because DESE has switched to a new grants management system called GEMS. So there's sort of just there's like a line to get your grants through the new system. So we're in line. Our work is done. We're ready to go. And we're just sort of like waiting to launch it. We would have, of course, loved to have launched it a little earlier, but we keep our eyes on the prize of the training of trainers session, that once you get the training, we know that you're going to need to have those funds available for stipends, for any of the work that you need to do behind the scenes to prepare for launching the new IEP. And so it will be coming soon. And we're excited to have more information about that the next time we see you. So with that in mind, I just want to transition now to our update on general supervision. This might be a term that you're familiar with. It might be kind of new to you. I have a feeling you're going to be hearing more about this from us because it's an important topic about how we as the state education agency do our work. And really what it means is it's sort of about how do we, as the state education agency, have a system to monitor local education agencies, assist schools and districts to implement the requirements of IDEA with a real focus on results and functional outcomes. So this system has existed for a long time, but OSEP is certainly sort of elevating the importance of it. And what I've appreciated about what OSEP, the Office of Special Education Programs, as part of the U.S. Department of Education, has done is to show us how the work that we do needs to be even more interconnected. So these puzzle pieces you see here. So the way in which our fiscal monitoring can help to inform integrated monitoring. So those of you who've been involved with our tiered focus monitoring reviews, who've been involved with the approved special education school reviews, at the end of the day, what the feds are challenging us to do is to think about, just using that example, how do we sort of pull together information from across all of our special education units, from across our teams, to better inform how we do our monitoring, to better inform how we do our dispute resolution. So dispute resolution is PRS, our problem resolution system here at DESE. It's also the BSEA, and so the Bureau of Special Education Appeals. So there's work that's underway for all us and the BSEA to link our work better than we have in the past, and to take a fresh look at how we are conducting all of these functions. And so to help guide this, the U.S. Department of Education released new information for, really this is geared towards states, but it might be of interest to you to take a look about what their expectation is for the type of change that I'm talking about. And so this was good for us to see on July 24th. We already knew about our responsibilities relative to general supervision, so we were already working to create some changes. But the July 24th memo for us really helped to kind of just galvanize and articulate exactly what it is that we have to work towards. So the at the end of the day, we just really have to work together as a team here to make sure that essentially the pieces fit together even better, that all of the gears sort of, working together are going to lead to better outcomes for students because we're more clear and consistent together. So I'm just going to go back to this slide real quick, just to say that, in all of these areas, so you interact with us around the SPP APR, you interact with us around our data collection, our problem resolution system, around the BSEA, mediation, due process hearings, our monitoring approach, the fiscal oversight that we have to provide. We're working towards changes in basically all of those areas. And a lot of the changes happening this year as a planning year for implementation next year. And so rather than like itemizing and going through all 8 of these and perhaps losing your attention, I'm asking my colleagues, starting with Jamie, to come on and just tell you about some selected areas where there are changes coming. And so Jamie, just welcome and welcome back, and an opportunity just to give an update for our school and district colleagues about what will change about the determinations. And I think we've done a lot of work on the determinations over the past few years, but there's still even some more work to do. So Jamie, take it away.
Thank you, Russell. And we already had one question in the chat about the LAD determination. So yes, it is part of our general supervision system. So what we're looking at is where our goal is to improve and make sure that there's better connections between the LEA determinations, the TA and the professional development that we provide, and also the improvement planning that's required for any of the districts that are NI, NSI, or NA. So that's kind of the goal of this. And so if we go to the next slide, Russell, we'll talk about where we are and where we're going to go.
Sure.
So most of you know, we're going to be going into our 4th year with a rubric. So we started in 2021 with a rubric. Over the last 3 years and into this year, we continue to try to refine it, look at the data sets. We heard a lot of your feedback. But it's a data-driven rubric, and that's where we are right now. Where are we going to go? We want to refine it even more. We want it to look more like OSERS rubric, where we're going to be looking at compliance and outcomes. So it's not going to change much, but we are going to be changing it a little bit more over the next year. So you'll see one more. Well, you'll see this year's version of the rubric, and then you'll see one more that really is organized by compliance and outcomes, just slightly a little bit better. So that's where we're going with the rubric. And then how does that impact improvement planning and TA and PD? Well, what we've been doing is our improvement planning has been pretty general. Our TA and our PD has been also pretty general. We have the same kind of things that we offer, the PD institutes, things like that. The webinar annually that we've been doing. And our goal is to better align our improvement planning not only to the rubric and special education data, but also the other work that you're doing in your districts with other types of improvement activities that you're doing in your priority areas, and also better align our TA and our PD so that we're really looking at what the data is saying that you need for support, technical assistance, training, and making decisions that are going to support you so that you have access to better resources. I think that's it for the determinations, Russell.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. And I'm really excited about the combination of both. What are the determinations, and then particularly for the needs assistance, needs intervention, needs significant intervention districts, how we can provide more aligned and targeted support. So looking forward to how that will continue to emerge. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
Janelle, glad to now shift to approved special education schools and the monitoring that we do there. Welcome.
We are super excited about continuing this opportunity for general supervision and using our CHAMP monitoring platform, which is our new monitoring platform that's going to allow us to really streamline the collection of data and put in some more fine-tuning the process back and forth between the schools to ensure that policies and procedures and practices are implemented. If you want to jump to the next slide, we can talk through. So currently, CHAMP is up and running for all of our approved special ed schools. It's our communication hub and monitoring portal. And all of our reviews this school year are happening within that portal. And new this year, we worked when we were implementing CHAMP, thinking about how do we get the most timely data. So we now have cohorts, and self-assessments versus all being due in July are now due based on the on-site visit date. So the material that we're reviewing is much more timely than material that occurred in the summer. And in the future, we're going to continue really looking at the timeline of when the self-assessment data comes in, and when we're coming on site, and when we're issuing reports. So those timelines are still being reviewed and looked at. And we really want to update our website and our technical assistance and our procedures on our website, because everything still reflects WBMS, right? That's what's in there. And what we need to do is really make sure that SHAMP and how you communicate with the department and SHAMP the portal is in there. So we're also working on that for the school year.
Definitely. And Janelle, I just want to underscore, because I'm really pleased that we have a lot of representatives from approved special education schools here, and they've really gotten used to this idea that we've transitioned from WBMS to CHAMP for monitoring. And just so that you all know, the approved special education schools and the approved special education schools team, as led right now by Janelle Roberts, have made this transition from WBMS to CHAMP. They got started first, and it has provided a different way that we can sort of gather data and be more efficient, both for our schools and for our DESE staff in conducting reviews, and with the aim of being even more effective because of that efficiency, because of what we can see all together. And I think that's just an important to lay that background, because some of you participating right now might not know that change if you're not part of the approved special education schools, because it's going to set you up for actually what we're going to talk about next. So thanks, Janelle. I'm going to have Vani come now to talk about the changes coming for public school monitoring. Vani, you're on mute.
Sorry, clicked one, but not the other. Appreciate that. Thanks, Russell. So if we are maintaining our focus on educational results and functional outcomes for students, really want to talk to you today about data integration and alignment in our monitoring processes in public school monitoring. So in public school monitoring, we have been working to improve our systems, connect more strongly with other components of the general supervision system, and focus on the use of key data elements that impact students and student outcomes. So as such, there will be changes to our monitoring that promote sustained compliance, not only in public school monitoring, but in the other offices that you heard from today. You heard from Jamie, you heard from Janelle, and after me, you will hear from Barry as well. So Russell, if you want to move to the next slide, that'd be great. So in public school monitoring, before we even just talk about this, we will continue building on our review of data and our monitoring processes and our data analyses. We will continue our review of data around special education and racial equity. Our team will still be talking to you all when we come out regarding placement of students, regarding racial equity concerns that we may be having. But we are also going to start moving towards a new way of work. So if you have a tiered focus monitoring review this year, I wanted to first let you know that we are no longer tiering school districts. So we used to have up until this current year, tier 1 to tier 4. In tier 1 and 2 would be developing a continuous improvement monitoring plan. I'll talk about that in a second. Tiers 3 and 4 would do corrective action plans. This year, we are no longer tiering school districts. So you won't be receiving another email from us letting you know what tier you are in. You should have already received the email from us letting you know what week you will be reviewed and who your chairperson is, but that will be the last of those emails. You won't receive a subsequent one. So I didn't want you to think, just hold on, we're going to be getting another one about our tier. You won't be getting that this year. Our on-sites will be based on your submission of your self-assessment and our review of your self-assessment, in addition to a number of data items that we already look at, but we are actually moving forward with in a much stronger manner. And that's data around your LEA determinations, your PRS data, your SIMS data regarding placement of students with disabilities. We look at race, we look at graduation, we look at attendance, we look at a number of areas currently within our tiered focus monitoring that we're going to be now bringing even further to the forefront that will lay the foundation of our on-site review with you. So as always, your chairperson is going to work with you around what your on-site will be looking like. and you'll be hearing from them soon. The other piece that the current change we're making, if you are up for a tiered focus monitoring review, is what I just previously mentioned. We were doing the continuous improvement and monitoring plans, the SIMPs, for tiers 1 and 2. We will no longer be doing that. We are going to be moving towards corrective action plans for all districts that require a corrective action plan as a result of the review. Now, I do want to mention that does not mean we are going to be taking a backseat and partnering with you. We will be partnering with you around these corrective action plans. We will partnering with you around your progress reporting. We will be providing support. We will be providing assistance like we have always done, but we will be doing it through the corrective action plan rather than a continuous improvement and monitoring plan. Those are kind of the low-hanging fruit that we know we needed to change, and we thought that we would do it this year. So those are the two pieces I want you to know for now, if you're up for review this current school year. Moving forward, you just heard from Janelle about the CHAMP system that the private school team uses. In the 24-25 school year, we are looking to make a move from our current system, which is WBMS, into the CHAMP system, which is a much more integrative and intuitive system. So you please look forward to that. We are building it right now. That's the information I can provide to you with regard to that. Also wanted to let you know that your monitoring will look different moving forward in the 24-25 school year. And it will be really more based on the data that we share among the offices that you just heard about, your LEA determinations, your PRS data, your indicator data, which is really important to us, graduation rate data, attendance, dropout data. These pieces will be informing your on-sites in the 24-25 school year. And this will serve as the foundation for our review process. So I just wanted to provide you with just what's happening now in this current school year and what you can be looking forward to moving in 24-25, so that we are making the stronger connections through data and the general supervision across offices. We welcome any questions. Feel free to put them in the Q&A. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And Vanya, I do see some questions coming in, and so appreciate the interest that you've sparked through this presentation, and glad to see where we go with our monitoring procedures in the future. Thanks so much. Barry, you have the unenviable job of being last in this list. But I'd love to just hear an update of kind of what this, change through general supervision means for our problem team.
Thanks, Russell. Hello, everybody. See, I look at it as batting cleanup. Thank you. So general supervision, we are in PRS, we're going to be clarifying some of our procedures. And the operating theory here is that if we are as clear as possible with the public and with everyone about our procedures, we'll have a more efficient operating system. We can get the work done more expeditiously. We can make less of an ask on the districts, and we can get complainants and students their answers back as quickly as possible, which is better for everyone. So as the slide says, okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. So we're trying to clarify that existing alignment so that everyone, not only is the information the same, not only are we consistent, but it sounds consistent, because remember, PRS interfaces with both sides of the street. We do a lot of work with districts, but remember, we're also doing a lot of work directly with parents and advocates and attorneys. Now, advocates and attorneys tend to have had a lot more experience with the system, but many, many parents, the vast majority of people with whom we interact, are interfacing with our system for the very first time. And there's a lot of complexity here, as you know. And so to the extent that we can cull it down, distill it, be as simple and direct as possible so that people can get their heads around it, they will know that they're being dealt with in a straightforward way, and they can characterize their complaints in a way that's actionable by us. We don't want people to try to access the system thinking they've got a strong concern or a strong complaint and feel they're getting the door slammed in their face, because obviously that's not our intention. What we want to do is to characterize accurately what we do, what we don't do, and why we do those things, so that people know upfront what they can expect when they interact with the system. Most of the things that we're changing in the system aren't really changes policy-wise. They're largely clarifications on the PRS procedures guide. So let me walk you through a couple of those. One of the things we're clarifying in the PRS procedures guide is what it is in the procedures guide that is legally required versus PRS internal procedures. This is important because when we make a change to an internal procedure requirement, like submission date for your local report in a complaint, for example, if for some reason we want to extend that, sometimes parents have the feeling that we are breaking the law to accommodate the district. Obviously, that's not the case. We're changing an internally set timeline. So we're being much more clear about that. And also, for example, submission dates, right? So also we're being much more clear about when the 60-day date starts and when we and how we count those so that we're clearly accountable for the timelines. Also we're being much clearer about the distinction between general education complaints and special education complaints and the handling of those, since there are some differences between the federal and the state requirements. We're also clarifying the minimum requirements we expect when parents file complaints with PRS. We do not accept complaints, for example, on rumor or opinion. We do require a factual basis for the submission of complaints. So we're being clear about that in the procedures guide so that people can file complaints that are actionable by us. And if we have a clearer complaint, then we can formulate it more expeditiously so it can be handled by you. All of this is going to happen in addition with the updating of the PRS intake form. There are certain mandatory fields that we have to ask based on the federal requirements for mandatory information for filing a complaint, but we do ask for some supplemental information on our intake form. For example, we ask for preferred pronouns so that we can write our letters more easily, but that is an optional field, and so we're going to be marking which fields are optional versus required so that people are aware of that. And all of this is going to be happening after extensive stakeholder involvement. So you will, there'll be more to come on this that you'll get a bite at this apple.
Definitely. Barry, those last two comments that you made are really relevant to just as I kind of like maybe just give an overview of where we're going next across the board. So I hope what you heard is, our team's working towards alignment of practices and procedures. Barry, for example, working really closely with the BSEA as well around alignment between, when a case might be with us, when a case might be with the BSEA. A lot, really being data-driven in our approach. But the final thing that I really want to mention and why we're telling you about this in September is that we are going to be, for example, getting out the PRS draft procedures guide for comment. When Vani told you about the changes that we'll be making to public school monitoring and that use of data as sort of the basis for the on-site review, we have to write that all up and explain what that will look like in draft form and get that out for you to be able to give us feedback on. And not just you, but also our advisory panel, our special education advisory panel will have an opportunity to be talking about these changes during this upcoming school year. So today we just kind of want to alert you that there are changes that are coming predominantly for next year, but some of what we'll need you to do with us this year is to help guide this and give us feedback. And so wanted to give you a flavor for what is coming so that you can kind of be on the lookout and maybe not surprised when, maybe a little bit later this fall or winter, we come to you and say as one of these presentations, hey, the new monitoring guide, the new monitoring guideline, the new monitoring procedures, in draft form are available for your review. They're up, here's how you do it. Or we're going to selected stakeholders to get some feedback on this document. Here's how this is working. Or we're going to the SEIP on this. We have, different levels of stakeholder engagement depending on the level of change that we're creating, depending on how, who's involved. But nevertheless, what you should expect is robust stakeholder engagement. So you help to formulate where we go with these important documents, with these important changes, and how we document the changes. All right, final, just some Q&A real quick. I'll stop my share because we might have some colleagues come on screen. I was taking a look.